Hello, everybody, and welcome. If it's Wednesday, Thursday, then it's Warhammer. Who cares what day it is? It's time for Warhammer. And joining me, and only joining me this week, is the original weird two-headed bird. It's Kairos Fate Weaver himself. It's my buddy, Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, friends. How's it going?
Yes, so thank you all for joining us on this Thursday. I do apologize for the reschedule. Very unorthodox for us, but it's completely my fault. You can send all the hate mail my way. I am sorry about that. Could not be avoided. Work and all of that. But hey, we're here now. Tom, are you excited?
Sure.
I love it. Yes,
As
we have no
always.
guests tonight, unfortunately, because our guests could not join us due to the schedule change, but we will get them back on. Do not worry. But for now, it will just have to be Tom and I keeping you entertained. The very world is turning on its head. Andy and Rem had a guest earlier this week. We don't have a guest. What's going on, Tom? The world of Warhammer, YouTubing, much like the world of Warhammer itself, completely turned on its head. Completely turned on its head.
It's just it's just a terrible, scary thing. I have to be honest.
Well, don't worry. I've already started construction of my space station. So, and I will allow you, the elf, to come up to my space station as I am a beneficent monarch, much like Sigmar himself. So we'll give you like a ghetto somewhere in the corner where we'll stick the Aelf refugees.
That sounds terrible. Thank you.
All right. Yes, and of course, Aelfs will be our feature thing for tonight. That's what we're talking about. We're going to talk about the Aelfs. And I'm going to say it like that every time because they put that there, and I know that's not how you pronounce it, but I don't care. I'm calling them Aelfs.
And I'm going to be calling them elves.
Well, fine. You choose the more boring road, Tom. I am going to go ahead and try to live the Games Workshop experience since they decided to change everything. Just wait till we talk about the Duardidin. Can't wait for that one. And all the other weird things I'm going to get to pronounce wrong. I'm very excited. I'm glad about it.
You couldn't even wait for the launch of the elves?
The Aelfs? No, well, once the launch is out, look, first of all, I'm sure the Aelfs will have to wait like forever. You want them tomorrow. It's going to be like 2017 before you get Aelf content. They're going to be the forever mystery in Warhammer. That's what's coming.
No, I mean, you could be righter than you think, because if this whole Age of Sigmar thing doesn't go well, they really could be the forever mystery.
Sure. Who knows what happened? I'm not worried about that. I mean, we'd get at least to the Aelfs before they'd call it. They'd be like, the Games Workshop loves Aelfs too much. They're not going to let their precious pointier babies go by the wayside. Don't worry. You'll get your book. All right. So let's get right into some news. Now, it is a quiet time in old Warhammer world, and we'll talk about that a little bit. In fact, let's talk about it now, Tom. There's not a lot of news, and you and I were discussing some theories beforehand of why that is. We do have some news items, but up top, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, so it's really quiet. Like, all the news sites are literally just, like, silent.
About fantasy.
About fantasy, at least. The forums, so like Warseer, for example. Sorry, MC1 Gamer. I know that you're razzing me about citing Warseer, but Warseer, as just an example, hasn't had a thread or a post in their news thread since like October 1st. So now we're like, that's 8 days of silence.
Right. Which is just an unprecedented long time. And it's going back to well before the beginning of the year, back to the end times. Right, when like certainly there was probably we're not just talking about a new topic, a new post.
Yeah,
post.
So Vince, what do you think? I mean, the silence is all around. Like, this is across the board.
Sure, absolutely, every site.
I mean, went to Bella Lost Souls, and they haven't had a post since the first. It might have been the second.
Fayette, Lady Atia, everybody. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways you could go with this. My theory on why everything. So, first of all, there's tons of Tau stuff, right? I mean, like, it's not that there's no rumors, as you mentioned. It's just fantasy. I think it's the pent-up energy of 40K just roaring back to life. That's what it is. Look, these poor 40K people. Let's put ourselves in the mind of them for a moment. I know it's hard, But imagine for a moment that you like the Grimdark and only the Grimdark, right? And you lived in a world for like 3 or 4 years where you basically never went more than 2 or 3 weeks without a release, right? So there was always something for you to think about, always something coming next. Heck, there was a period of time there where you were getting a new book like every 2 weeks, a new book, right? With like, it was just cutting new armies out of whole cloth. Like, now there's Harlequins and Khorne Demonkin and whatever. Just making crap up. And so you get to be that person, and you're that way for like 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden you've just got silence. I mean, it is radio silence for like 4 months. Nothing. Just nothing. No products, no rumors, no nothing. And then all of a sudden you finally get a release. You know, a lot of these people who run the rumor sites also play 40K, and that they know that's where the money is. And I think that just dominates the news stream. You know what I mean? I think that's a big part of it. Once there is news for 40K, there's just no more room for fantasy. The bandwidth is taken up, right? It's like once President Trump's on the air or whatever, the man who would be President Trump. There's just no time to talk about these other candidates. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it boils down to. He soaks up all the bandwidth. 40K is basically the candidate Trump of the wargaming world.
Maybe. Like, so let me spin another bleaker post-apocalyptic scenario.
Sure.
Maybe there's just not that many active Age of Sigmar people. Now, and I don't mean this just like there aren't people playing the game, because I know people are playing the game. I know people are spinning out their old armies, doing stuff like that. But, you know, like we had a lot of the rumors that came down the pipeline were because they were coming through people that were invested in fantasy. And so these rumors would come down the pipeline, people were invested in fantasy, and so then they would forward them on, leak them out, and stuff like that. And if certain rumor mongers don't care about fantasy, aren't talking to the same friends that they were or whatever, it would lead to a choking up or a drying up of the stream, so to say. And like, so here's an example of this, is that even if that were the case, that still also doesn't explain this other aspect of it, which is that people aren't even conjecturing. People aren't even like people aren't even tinfoil hatting on the forums. It's just silent.
Not even the wild speculation one would hope for.
Yeah, or even the fake speculation that we got all the way in the lead up to Age of Sigmar.
Oh my goodness, the Nigmos. Will we ever? Let us never forget the Nigmos, shall we?
Yeah, but it's just silent, and so it's just really curious to me that this is what's going on. So again, I don't know that we can read the tea leaves, but
sure, it could also just be. I think we could both be right in this way. They accomplished their goal. The player base shifted. The people who would be most inclined to perhaps have that amount of energy to go and dig and try to have their inside sources are the most established people, those tournament type players, right? The very hard edged people who were really, really dialed in. And certainly Age of Sigmar is probably not the most popular thing amongst that crowd. And so those people are like, man, I don't care about those rumors anymore. You know, those people are off working on 9th Age conversions and stuff like that. So not hitting up their sources, they're not doing these kind of things. Whereas the players they do have now are, you know, more casual people. You know, maybe should we say more Timmy oriented people who are like, yeah, that's, you know, when it comes out, it comes out. That's cool.
Maybe. It's still, it's not, to me, it's not encouraging. Obviously, it's not going to control my hobbying. It's not going to control any of those aspects of the game for me, but it's just...
Oh, certainly. Yes, but we do have some, that's okay, though. Despite the lack of official news, we've got some news. So, Tom, let's go with some news. Yeah, absolutely. So, hitting quite a bit closer to home, we're going to have an update for Mordheim coming out this weekend. In that kind of content update, or whatever you want to call it, version update, we're going to deal with a couple rules hiccups that we found that we really should have caught beforehand, but you know, that's why you're getting alpha. Right. So we're going to make, there's some adjustments to routing. There's going to be some
cleaned up language on like some of the way that things operated, just to make sure it's very clear. Yeah, so just some general things. Hopefully we'll have it out by early this weekend.
Yeah, cleaned up some scenario language. Like there were places where there was sort of an obvious victory condition, but it was also possible to not have that met, and yet, so you weren't sure who won. So like just cleaning up all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
As always, I will link the Mordheim stuff down below. Like I said, it should be updated. Tom and I just have a few remaining things to clean up, but we'll be publishing it out this weekend. So that link will still be good because it's to the link I'll post is to the actual Dropbox folder that contains all the rules. And so once we make the switch, you will still be able to go to the same folder. It'll just be a new updated file. Old file gone, new file there. It'll be marked with a version number, so you'll know which one's, the right one, and so on and so forth.
So let me ask this, Vince. For Mordheim, what warbands have you played so far?
I played the Stormcast warband. It was very fun. I played a very ranged heavy Stormcast. Did a couple games with them. That bow, like the special bow you can get, like not the standard bow they carry, but the big one that like 1 in 5 guys can have. Pretty scary. That thing's will really rock the house. And those hammer prosecutors are really good in Mordheim. Like their ability, never underestimate the ability to fly and use a pretty potent ranged weapon in a city with buildings and terrain everywhere. Just getting up on like the 3rd floor buildings and raining hammers down on people was pretty awesome. And then I got a couple games in with Cornite, the Corn Blood Tide. Yeah, Cornish Blood Tide. With the Cornish Game Hens. Got those in. I had a Bloodthirster as my general. And, that's a scary thing, I think, on the table. At first, both of my opponents were like, they were hemming and hawing, of course. That's the sound of my opponents. No, they were like, no, it's fine. I mean, the one opponent was also making a new warband, and he was like, all right, no problem. If you're going to take a Bloodthirster, then I don't feel bad about taking a Steam Tank. And I was, all right, well, that's how that's going to go. My Bloodthirster got hacked to ribbons. She went down fast. But then the tide rolled. Roll tide, roll tide, roll. The Bloodthirster was just absorbing all the shots from the Empire until the tide could get there, and then we just flattened them out. And then the dumb dwarfs won because they took the objective, which is just proof in the pudding that killing doesn't matter. Take your eye off the ball of the scenario, you're going to lose the game, which I did. I still had plenty of models. I only lost like the Bloodthirster and I think maybe 1 or 2 other people, but the dwarves got the objective and won. So there you go.
Nice. What all armies warbands have you seen on the table?
So I've seen 2 different Empire. The guy who plays Empire, my buddy who plays Empire normally, has went through 2 of the different ones. He went through the Night one, the host of the Grand Marshal, and he went through the Ironsides of Nuln. And then I've also seen the Orcs and Goblins, the Big Wa, and the Dwarven, like the basic Dwarven one. I don't remember which one it is. The not Slayer one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he had a great game too. He rolled out like a boss on his final phase for treasure. He got a bunch of money. He's thinking about going and trying to buy himself a gyrocopter, which I'm not super excited about.
Nice. I got a couple games in, and rather than kind of splitting up, I've been trying to like push the leveling to kind of see what how ugly things get and how quickly.
Right.
I have been playing Night Goblins, in fact, and my opponent is playing the Hand of the King and Queen, which is the High Elven hyper elite warband of Phoenix Guard, White Lions, and Sisters of Avalorn. And
the perfect match for Night Goblins.
Yeah, exactly. And he, of course, started with a Flamespire Phoenix. So after I spent the last War Games episode talking up how awesome Flamespire Phoenixes are, I got to face one down with a bunch of Night Goblins and a couple of Squig Hoppers with, that's about it. So no monsters on my side of the table. It was, it went pleasantly well, in fact.
Yeah, nice. That's what I call karmic justice #1 right there. You deserve to have that Flame Phoenix put right up your butt. But on the other side, I'm glad to hear the Night Goblins did it. I mean, it's really true. Those big monsters in this game, you'd think without big units to handle them, they would just sort of rule. But I have found them to be quite sensitive. You really got to be careful with them.
Yeah, and especially when you start throwing on casters with like D3 mortal wounds,
Right.
like, you know, suddenly those become real solutions to monsters.
Yep.
Because after a couple of wounds, they're going to have to start making at the bottom of every round a check, or they run away, and that's a big deal. It's a bigger deal than I think a lot of people have given it credit. So, so I've been doing that. And I think I'm going to roll out next probably this weekend. I'm going to give the Slayer Dwarf Warband a try.
Gotcha. All right, nice. Yeah, so it's been very good. A lot of fun. The scenarios have all played out really well. So I really do highly encourage it. Check it out. If you like more time, and if you like AOS, or maybe you only like one of those things, maybe, you know, get a little peanut butter in that chocolate and see if it maybe works out for you. You too can be Officer Reese's. You never know. So, Tom, would you like me to segue into my? I had a tinfoil hat item for this.
Yeah. So I don't think we have the audio, unfortunately, but
no.
So Vince has some theories about what the release schedule may or may not look like.
Yes, I have a theory. It could be bunnies. Correct. But so here's my theory. In the past, with these sort of, a lot of times when we're about to get a release or a repack or something, okay, you'll see a lot of the models in the existing line go to sold out. Not temporarily out of stock, email me. The big banner across it that says, sold out, you can't get it anymore, stop trying, dummy, we don't like you anymore, right? That banner. And if you look right now on the US Warhammer site, what you're going to see is that a shockingly large number of Lizardmen, or Seraphon, as they are currently known, are in this sold out condition. So first of all, Lord Croak went in there. I don't think that's indicative of anything. That's just Lord Croak. But you've also got the Temple Guard gone, the Saurus Cav gone, the Scarvet gone, right? The Skink Priest gone. These are some pretty stock important figs. Like, and really everything else went direct. Like, there's not much that's still like in the store. There's a few things, Carney, the Rippers, and the Steggy, but like the Salamanders, the Razordons, all the characters, all this stuff is direct. So there's a lot of missing pieces out of the Seraphon. And my supposition there is that Seraphon are coming. I don't know if it's necessarily the next release or in some version of the releases, but this is my tinfoil hat theory. I think them Lizardmen are coming. I think in the next release, they have to answer one of two mysteries, right? They have to either answer the Elves
or the
Lizardmen. Right.
Yeah, and they've already had the Seraphon show up in some of the narrative.
Exactly. So they're the ones that have been primed in the narrative to be answered, right? The Elves will probably be wrapped up with like Slanesh and a whole bunch of other stuff. They want to let that ride, is my guess, for a little while, and then do some. I think the Seraphon will get a smaller release, but they'll, you know, like I think they'll get some new minis. I think they'll get a smaller release, probably with some enemy pairing. Maybe they'll be the ones, sort of, maybe they'll do like a Tzeentch Seraphon back and forth. Maybe that's how that all works out, right? Because obviously Seraphon are like the demon hunter extraordinaire. So
they did say that, I mean, the conjecture was the two armies getting rolled out soon, or soon-ish. The conjecture was Skaven and Tzeentch. And
I don't buy the Skaven for a second. I think that's garbage. I don't buy that for a minute. We already had a big Skaven release 10 times. They already did the Skaven repacks. We're not getting more Skaven. It's just not, I don't believe it. But if you think about it, the Seraphon, the Lizardmen, that is to say, and Tzeentch are the perfect foils for each other, right? So the ultimate chaos schemer against the most brilliant mind that Order has to offer, right? The Slann, the Plan. It's the two competing plans, right?
Sure.
It's the
and they have a plan.
And they have a plan. Yeah, it's like the good Cylons against the evil Cylons. They'd be a perfect sort of pair to release with each other. And neither of them would need a huge release. They'd be that perfect end of year release, right? Where we don't have 3 months to spend on this like we did with, you know, Stormcast and all this, right? So we got to fit this into a smaller window before we roll over to the end of the year and get into the dead zone after of Christmas. So there it is. You pack that in there. You get some of that mystery trotted out. You got perfect foils against each other. Zinch people get some new stuff. That can still touch into 40K, so they can still hit their big market of 40K right before Christmas. If it's me, that's my play. I'll tell you that right now.
So here's the real question for me.
Yes.
Do they get their own starter?
Like a full box, like a Zinch versus blah, blah, blah starter box?
Yep.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they don't.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough there. I think what they get is, I think this total looks like about a 6-week release of like 3 weeks of Zinch and 3 weeks of Seraphon, probably intermingled maybe somehow. I don't know. But something like that. That's what it looks like to me. Thinking about the time when the Tau crap is supposed to end versus Christmas, and when they don't do, because they don't have releases for like a week or two there or whatever over the holidays, the actual like holidays. That to me lines up too well. And I think a big starter box, you just can't do it. So there you go. That's tinfoil hat, baby. That's what it is. But I'm just saying, I would love to see the Lizardmen. Here's ultimately, do you know why I really want the Seraphon, Tom?
Why is that, Vince?
I don't really have much interest in them as an army. I'll say that right now. But I'll tell you why I really want them. I really want them to be at the army just so we can look back at the rumors of Lizardmen getting squatted, and that can be even more wrong. I'm a big fan of how wrong every rumor was leading up to the release of Age of Sigmar, and to have one be even wronger would just make my month right there.
Do you think that the aesthetic will change if they do?
No, I don't think it will.
Do you think we'll still have Aztec lizards?
Yeah, because they left in their pyramids. Their pyramids are big spaceships. I think they're gonna look like what they look like.
That will have like futuristic Aztecs, like Space Marine Aztec lizards.
No, I absolutely no. They're not gonna show up wearing armor or anything like that. Nope. I mean, I hope we get a laser gun every so often or something. I can handle that. We've already got laser guns in the army. For everybody who just revolted when I said that, look, you've got laser guns in the army. If you don't believe me, go read those war scrolls again a little more carefully. Okay, there are power swords and laser guns in your army already. Like, the Lizardmen have future tech. It's Thor crap. All right, like it's
Engine of the Gods.
Yeah, it's all just Thor crap. It's science so advanced as to be indistinguishable from magic. Thanks Asimov or whatever. I got it, or whoever. I'm probably screwed that. I probably misattributed that. But like, that's what it is. Like, really read that text. Like, there are people wielding power weapons in that army. So I mean, I would be fine with pushing that a little farther, but no, I think they'll still pretty much look like what they look like. And I think that's because we won't get new like Saurus or Skinks. I think they'll leave those boxes how they are. They'll do some new supplementary stuff. We can't, they're not going to have enough space to re-release the whole army. So we can't change a whole aesthetic, but we can push it a little like we did with Wood Elves, right? So there you go. That's
see.
My theory. Yeah.
So finally, we'll move to the last item, which is the budget of Sigmar kicked off this week.
Yes.
And that's kind of a new movement within the community. Do you want to describe that, Vince?
Yes. So the budget of Sigmar, it was the topic of the week last week. So I'll throw that down below as well. But it's just a video on my channel. You can go back and look at it. It was last week's topic of the week. And the budget of Sigmar is kind of inspired by the Tale of Painters, and specifically it was inspired by Ashkiss the Muse, who reached out to me 2 weeks ago or whatever, and suggested the idea of having a community project for us to all build some new armies in the Age of Sigmar. One of the great advantages of this edition changeover is that we effectively got all the armies at once, right? As much as we want new releases, we did all get new armies, right? Because everything changed. You got all new war scrolls, things that you might not have been interested in, you could be interested in now. And so the idea is to have a limited budget. In the US, that's $50 per month. That has varying currency implications, which are all listed in the description of that original video. You get $50 per month as your budget, and everything that goes into the model counts against that budget. So like if you buy basic material and all that kind of stuff, you can either choose to put all your basic material into 1 month or sort of amortize it out and say like, $2 worth of basic material in this month, whatever. But everything goes in there, excluding the paint, which you're assumed to already have or whatever. And the goal is to get to 30 models and 100 wounds at the end of 6 months. So
at least 30 models.
At least 30 models. You can have more, certainly, but at least 30 models and at least 100 wounds after 6 months at no more than $50 a month. And of course, and you cannot overspend, and your money does not roll over. So you never get more than $50 to spend. And
you also need to complete paint jobs, right?
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
Your next amount of money.
Yep. Games Workshop figs only. And for this time, we're doing it for Age of Sigmar. Some people have inquired with me about doing it for other games. And yes, I would very much like to do that. Once this one is done, I think this is a nice ongoing thing to do. So next time I might do like a skirmish game sized one where you're only collecting like 10 to 12 figs. So we could do, or somewhere in like the 10 to 20 range. We could do like Wartime AOS and Infinity and Malifaux and, kind of all those games that are in that size where we were just going toward a model count, something like that, and sort of structure it differently. But the goal is you got to finish all the painting on your models before you buy anything new, and no money rolls over. And so, if you ask me, well, what about models that are more expensive than that $50? Well, yep, that's a thing. There are models that cost more than $50. So that means you got to hunt, beg, borrow, steal, whatever you got to do. Convert, kit bash, make it up. That's part of the challenge and the fun is to go ahead and, try to do that thing. I'll give the example of my Celestin Prime. I'm pretty proud of that model. I think it's a pretty attractive model. That cost me maybe $30. So, that wasn't, I didn't spend 80 on the big guy. And I think he came out still quite positively. So there you go. That's part of the challenge. So look at the budget of Sigmar, and we would love to have more budgeteers. There's already a lot of people participating. And basically, if you join up, then what you want to do is you want to join the PMP Google Plus community, the Painters Motivating Painters. That's our hobby community where we all share work on any project. And it's not just limited to this, but any project we're working on. It's a great hobby community focused on positively building all of our shared skills and love across any type of hobbying that can say painting Warhammer, 40K, Malifaux, any game, terrain, it doesn't matter. It's a positive community about, improvement and advice and sharing the work. Beginning of every month you make a pledge and you post your progress as you go along, and then at the end of the month, and then when you're done, you throw it up as an end of month. And so all the budget of Sigmar posts go in there. And we'd love for people to make videos about their progress too. So, which I am going to try to do because I actually went and got myself sort of a new little setup so I can start video, like actually recording my workspace here, because this camera I have right now, this one, doesn't really work well for that. So I'm hoping that in the next couple weeks I can start my Cheating with Vince hobby series where I teach you how to cheat to be a better hobbyist. And by teach, I mean share you the ways that I figured out to cheat, and hopefully they help you too. I am by no means a teacher, but I'll try to share whatever little minor things I've learned.
So I have to ask, Vince, what army did you decide on?
Yeah, so my budget of Sigmar choice is going to be a Tzeentchian Warriors of Chaos. I've always liked, the only Warriors of Chaos I really liked are Slaanesh and Tzeentch because I like the color schemes of them. I'm not really a big fan of the red and the gross, which is Nurgle's color scheme. It's just gross. Just look like you vomited on the model. Or pooped. Yeah, just various excrement. A lot of people love Nurgle, and I have nothing against that. When people love that aesthetic, I'm all for it. I've seen people do just absolutely stunning paint jobs. Not my cup of tea. So I decided to do a Tzeentchian Warriors of Chaos. So my first month is going to be 5 Chaos Knights. Here's the first 2 in mid-work here. And I got these guys for $3 a piece. So I think that was a pretty good grab for my 5 Chaos Knights. That's $15. And then also he's too far away to reach. So I'll just pick up his box. And then a Chimera, because I love this model. No one uses these. There's like 10 of these.
You mean a cockatrice?
Oh, cockatrice. Sorry, that's what I said. What did I say?
You said Chimera.
I'm sorry. Cockatrice. there's like 10 of these on every game store shelf in the country. Guess who uses this thing? So I got this for like $26, $27, something like that. So there's my first month. That plus some basic material, and I'm gonna call it and I think that's pretty good. So I'll have 5 Chaos Knights and a Cockatrice.
Nice.
I'm very excited. What about you, buddy? What did you decide to go with?
I've really I have a lot of models,
Sure.
a lot of models that need to be painted. And so, I've been eyeing, I couldn't ever talk myself into full on buying into a certain, into this army, but I decided because I had enough of it kind of laying around that, my overall investment in the long term would fit within this budget of Sigmar. And so I'm actually, I think, going to do a Night Goblin army. Yes, I have a Forest Goblin army, but now I'm doing a Night Goblin army, full on squigs and everything else. So I picked up a number of squig hoppers this last month, the last couple weeks, and so or last week or so. So I am going to probably do a whole host of squig hoppers. I think that's on the docket.
Nice. Now, Tom, I have a question for you. You and I played Warhammer Online, as it's known.
Yep.
How many goblins would you say you played in that game?
How many goblins?
Yeah. I don't think it was many. I don't remember you playing goblins. And I played like exclusively goblins.
It's true. I had bunny hops, which was my my squig armor squig herder.
Sure. I think I played like maybe 5 seconds. That was not around.
He was maxed out. And then I
remember you cheating with Chaos Warriors. That's all I remember.
I did that a lot. That's true. And then I had my shaman that Trav would multi-box on and then
Sure.
die on. But other than that shaman, I mean,
No, that's fine. I'm glad to see you've come over to the light.
Yeah, it was
the great and glorious green light of the Goblin Wonder.
Rafflesaurus was the shaman's name.
Gotcha. Oh yeah. As you can see, we were very serious about our naming scheme in War. Meant to be taken seriously, that game. All right. Well, very good. So yeah. So if you're not part of the budget of Sigmar yet, find that link after the show and join up. We would love to have you in the PMP, and we would love to have you participate as a budgeteer. We've already got some people posting. MC1 Gamer threw up his first vid today on it, so that's very cool. I love it, and he's got a big old tree man, which, man, I would just buy like 5 more of those tree men if I could. Like, if I could just afford to go out and get 5 more of those tree men, I totally would. They're a fantastic model. They really are just fun to paint.
They make me want to run have a small army of Sylvaneth. And then I remember that it's a small army of Sylvaneth, and I'm like, no.
Don't you feel like it's missing one thing? I feel like Dryads and the big trees, not enough. They needed a new treekin or bush
and
people
they need
or something.
To not force people into terrain.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, all of their spells, everything. Anyways, I don't want to go into a rant, but everything seems to point that direction towards terrain and the spells and the magic, and I just I can't get into them with them and their 2 units.
Yeah, no, I understand. I would have loved maybe some big flower-headed people, like big angry sunflower people. That would have been pretty cool.
You know what I would have actually liked? And it's unfortunate that they the branch race and the Dryads are something separate. I would have loved actual Dryads, chicks living in trees.
Sure. Yeah, as opposed to the what we've got.
Yeah, whatever we have. I would also take as a substitute pixies, pixie fairykin.
Oh, sure, that'd be great. Yeah, where are the sprites and stuff? Yeah, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I think that would be a neat pairing with, and you see some of those types of creatures in the sprues for Wood Elves. I think that something like that could have went a long way. You had Ariel, kind of hearkening to that thing. I think that those types of pixies could have been a neat pairing, especially if they were perched on the treekin and stuff I don't know. Yep.
All right. Good stuff. So share or join up, and we will and we look forward to the community's progress. But let's move on to our feature item of the week. And this week we are going to turn to the Aelfs, as I mentioned at the top of the show. And yes, that is how I'll pronounce them. And Mitch, I see you corrected me in the comments. No, it's Aelf. I'm sure of it. I'm positive they put the A there they must want me to actually say it. So I'm gonna go for Aelf. And so we're gonna do the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Aelfs as a whole.
I'm pretty sure that you just want to drive me insane.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, yes, obviously. Okay. Oh, and real quick before we get into that, so I want to answer a question. So Lord Cypress asked, have either of you used or played on the fat 6x4, like the fat mat, the 6x4 grassy mat? I see it in battle reports and it looks great. Is it worth the $100 investment? So Lord Cypress, I will say this. I have not played on it, but here's what I will say. Malorian ordered a ton of them and he really liked them. And if you go back on his channel, you'll have to dig back some ways, like probably pre-War Machine stuff. He has a big review of them, and he talks about his experience playing on them and such. So if you kind of, I don't like, I'll try to dig around as well, see if I can find the video for you. But he got a bunch of them. I know he played with them a lot, and I know he has a review of them in one of those vids. So I can give you that. Hopefully that helps. I can point you toward some knowledge, even if I can't drop it. Okay, so good, bad, and ugly of the Aelfs. And Tom, I thought we'd divide this up not by the armies, because who cares? There are no more armies. That's not a thing. The Aelfs are all together living in a mystery land that we don't know anything about. Who knows? They're terribly mysterious. So instead, we're going to turn to, well, I thought we'd break it up kind of by type. So I thought first we'd do some characters. We do some good, bad, and ugly characters. How you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm in for that.
All right. So would you like to begin, Tom, with your good? Just give me that. Let's just go through the list and kind of talk about why. You can give me your good, your bad, and your ugly if you're ready with all three.
Sure. So for good, I think I'm going to have to go to... I'm really torn because there's a lot of good. I mean, I'll open with this. So my honorable mentions go to Eltharion, which I made a strong case for the other week on the show.
He's a beast.
He's so good. And so I'm going to try to stay away from my decisions that I had made last week. Let me say that. So with that in mind, so I'm not going to mention Teclis, I'm not going to mention Eltharion, I'm not going to mention the Anointed of Asuran on the Flame Spire, which is just beastly. Oh, so good. So for good, I'm going to go, my choice is going to be the High Elf Archmage, like High Elf Mage on foot. And I know you're asking, like, really? Like, why that dude? That dude with 5 wounds just walking around. Because his spell gives a 6-up ward save to him and everybody within 18 inches. That, like, you know, it's a 6-up ward save, yes, but it's everybody. Everybody within 18 inches. That's really good.
Yeah, anything that gives you even some chance of stopping mortal wounds is really not to be disregarded.
Yeah, it's and so I just yeah. So for me, like he's an MVP that doesn't get a lot of airtime, and so he's worth for me throwing in many armies. Unless obviously it's like a heavy Phoenix Guard army or something. So, so my bad is going to be the Beastmaster on a Mana Core, and it's really disappointing because I wanted to run this dude in 8th. Like, and I had a beast army, like that was part of the thing, and I was doing it. It was good. And then I was like, oh, I can't wait. Like this dude is going to finally come around. And he didn't. He just got worse. Like, I don't know if it's possible, but he got worse. And it hurts my soul. Dude's at only 10 wounds. He's a monster that still scales. 5-up armor save. His attacks are okay. He only has one with some rend, and it's -1. I like before he could like grant extra attacks to a monster. Now he can let him reroll 1s to hit. I just I'm not feeling him, so he's just bad. It makes me sad, but he's just bad. And then my ugly, I think my ugly is gonna have to go to this is probably going to be debatable.
Okay.
But a lot of people are not going to agree with me here. And I fully recognize that. but that's the Dragon Mage. And the reason why I say the Dragon Mage is ugly isn't because he's bad. I think he's confused, and I think that's the problem.
All right, like you're saying he's driving at too many different purposes? Like he doesn't internally synergize well?
Yeah, like you're going to want him in a bunch of different places on the battlefield for different reasons.
Gotcha.
I mean, you're going to, like, as a mage, like, for the dispelling and stuff like that, you're going to want him up front, but at the same time, he's only a 5-up save, and he's losing effectiveness every time he's taking wounds. And so you really can't bunker him. Like, I just don't know why I would choose him over, like, honestly, over an Archmage on a dragon who is going to have better, like, his spell and what he's doing as, like, anti-magic, so he's not front and center. I would probably choose the Archmage over the Dragon Mage, and I would certainly choose the High Elf Prince on, or the High Elf Prince on Dragon or Emmerich long before I ever chose the Sun Mage. So it's just it feels like he's just torn in too many directions, and there's not enough differentiating him from the Archmage. That's what I would say.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, good stuff. All right, so here's my list.
Yep.
All right, so here's what I've got. So in the character realm, my good, and I'm so happy about this one. This is like, because I love that this is good. And that is the Forest Lord on Dragon in the Wood Aelf Force. That guy is a boss. Like, he is a boss. First of all, he's on a dragon, right? Which is always good. He's got the big D6 damage bites, the huge rend and all this. I mean, he's just, he is very beastly in the damage he will do, as most people on dragons are. But beyond that, the thing I will say is read that soporific breath, or whatever it's called. Whatever his breath weapon, for my money, worth more than all those mortal wound dealing breath weapons. No, I'll take this every time. For the long and short of it, it's his breath weapon works like this. It makes it so any unit within 3 inches of him can't be chosen to be activated until every other unit has been activated. That's crazy. So, like, you pile in there with Wood Elves and he's in the middle, you just fight first. You know what I mean? Like, you go, then you go, then you go, then you go, and now they can have their turn. It just completely destroys the back and forth nature of the combat phase and just erases the tactical play of the enemy. It's brutal. It's just absolutely tide turning. So that's my dog right there. More power to that. Good luck for those old forest dragons. That's not exactly a real hip model, but if you're looking to model one up, look into the Reaper 2 Bones line. I would say that's not in the budget of Sigmar, certainly, because it's not a Games Workshop model. But if you're just trying to get one, hey, they have tons of dragons for a very economical price. My bad is very simple. I'll pick this high elf guy. I think he's so stupid. It's like Prince Althron or whatever his name is, special character. What a waste. What an absolute piece of garbage this is. This guy is, for a named special character in the High Elves, he feels so tacked on. It was like they just ran out of ideas and were like, there, he's like a guy. He has nothing special offensively, melee, or ranged. Nothing special in his rules. His command ability is garbage. He's just, like, from top to bottom, there is zero redeeming about this guy, which you should never say about a special character, right? That's what makes it particularly insulting. When I read, like, a generic character that's boring, I'm like, that's fine. It's just a generic character, right? Like, sure, they're not all going to be winners. There's usually choices. But when it's a special character, special characters need to justify their existence, right? Because that War Scroll didn't need to be there, right? And just automatically looking at the regular Lord and going, yes, the regular Lord is better than this guy in every way, shape, and form, then that tells me that this War Scroll shouldn't exist or needed to be better. One of those two things. And my ugly is Prince Imric. And I mean that in both senses of the word. That is to say, I think what Emmerich does to units is ugly because he will erase some fools. He is also a murder machine. But that is sad that he's actually pretty good because that model is god awful. Like, wow, that's ugly. So yes,
I actually picked up, I think, Emmerich, like the actual like rider and saddle and everything this last weekend in metal. So I'm looking forward to putting him on a not S curved dragon.
Yeah, not garbage dragon.
Nope.
And look, aesthetics are a very personal thing. If you really love the old Warhammer S style dragons, I do have the old Forest Dragon S style with like the giant flappy like head. Like he had this ridiculous alligator head. If that's the type of dragon you love, hey, cool. I got no beef with that. But for me, no. Horrendous. Oh boy. Like so dumb looking. Especially when you compare it to the newer High Elf dragons that were just so sleek and cool looking. All right. Next round. Let's do some troops. Some infantry or cavalry, just kind of your troops. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
So infantry or cavalry?
Sure. Either or.
So but not chariots.
Correct, not chariots.
So my good is gonna have to. It's gonna be shout out to my Sisters of Avalorn, because man, like it just doesn't get sexier than this for archers. They're not the longest range, only 18 inches, but if they don't move, they're so first off, they're 3 up, 1 attack, 1 damage. If they don't move, they go up to 2 attacks at 3 up as archers, 1 damage. If they're shooting a chaos unit, you're adding 1 to the wound rolls. If you have the Sisters of Avalorn, the Handmaiden, within 8 inches, you're re-rolling 1s to hit. So now you're 3 up, re-rolling 1s to hit, and you're 3 up to wound, plus 1 to wound against chaos units. And then in addition to that, they still get the point blank shot. They
have like old stand and shoot.
Yeah, they have old stand and shoot. Exactly. Yep. So, and then on top of that, they still have a 4 up melee attack as soon as they engage. And so, it's just good. Like, I don't know a lot better archers that are just packing all of these things at the same time. Well, like the hit and damage, you're going to land the shots. They may lose out on the save because they don't have the rend, but there's not a lot of range stuff that aren't siege that has rend. And so for actually putting arrows into the air and hitting targets and putting wounds on targets, I think they're some of your best bet. So they feel like what like elven archers should feel like. My bad are Blackguard. Now stick with me here.
All right.
Because you were like, really? Blackguard? I just named a unit that's like a 4 up save, range 2-inch attacks, or range 2-inch attack with 2 attacks, 3 up, -1 rend, 1 damage. You hear that as infantry.
On paper, that sounds pretty good, I've got to admit.
Yeah, like, and the problem is in the Aelfs, they're competing in that exact same space with Phoenix Guard, Swordmasters, and White Lions. The only one they might actually beat out is White Lions.
And is their special ability? They're the ones that have the special ability that require Malekith to be around, right?
Yes,
right.
They require Malekith to be around. So it's just not even like I am going to take, if I want a harder unit serving that same role with basically the exact same stats down the line, I'll take Phoenix Guard with the ward save, who are automatically immune to the battle shock with their normal hero round. If I want the damage, I'll take the Swordmasters. So I don't know. Like, they're underwhelming for what I feel like they should be. Let me say it that way.
All right, fair enough.
And then I guess you could switch these two depending on how you want to look at it. And then finally, my ugly, which could technically also be bad, are Witch Elves.
Which are never ugly model-wise.
Which are never ugly models, but it used to be ugly what they did to people.
Right.
Now it's ugly what happens to them. Like,
so you just pick up piles of them and move them to the side of the board now, basically.
Yeah, like previously they were these like badass women that would just dice, and now they're just rape bait. Like
they're really just casualties waiting to happen. I mean,
they are. They don't have a save, and since it's a slash, they can never be improved. We've talked about this.
Yep.
They have 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 3 up to hit, 4 up to wound, no rend, 1 damage. So they are head and shoulders 100 bajillion times worse than Blackguard. We'll start there. And then they can gain an extra attack if they have a death hag nearby, and then they can reroll ones. Which again, Blackguards are still playing in all this space, and they can reroll all failed hit rolls if they are 20 or more models. So they're just not what they were. Like again, if you're comparing them across the range of Aelfs, like there are a lot of other things that I'm going to take first. That's what I'll say.
Yep. No, that all makes sense. Witch Elves are truly the depressing one, but
and which is why I say they're ugly, because to me that's almost worse than being just bad.
It is insulting because they were so good and they're so expensive and they're so beautiful of a model. To make them that garbage is, I should never look at the Blood Reavers from Khorne and be like, I don't know, I think I might want these guys.
Yeah, it's sad. I look up on my shelf and know that I have 40 of those unassembled in a box.
Right. All right. So I'll do my my infantry / cavalry or whatever, that type of thing. The troops, that's what we're talking about here. So for my good, I'm going Cold One Knights.
Okay. Why so?
I'll tell you why. Statistically and damage stuff, they're good. I mean, they're solid. If you just look at the numbers, they're good. There's nothing that outrageously unbelievable about them when you just look at their stat profile.
Yeah.
The key is in the special abilities, okay? So they can very easily gain +1 to wound and +1 to damage. So they're all cranking out 2 damage, which I like. Anything that's high damage is good. But the real magic comes in the fact that they're a base 4-up save, which isn't great, but they can extremely easily trigger rerolls of their armor to reroll saves of 1 and 2. Okay. So now they're 4-up, rerolling 1s and 2s. That means that they are anything away from just having a 3-up rerollable, right? Because stand in cover, get a Mystic Shield, have any of 100 other things happen that improve your armor save by 1. And suddenly they're just 3-up rerollable. And 3-up rerollable in this game is so freaking hard to budge, right? Yeah. If you don't have an unbelievable amount of rend, you're not getting through that. Those guys will just stick like glue. So they can charge in, hit really hard, and then stick it out. You know what I mean? The counterattack happens. Even if they can charge. What's nice is that a lot of times you take a high damage unit into a tough unit or tough nut to crack. You crack that one, but then in comes the trap around the side, and they break that thing you just sent in there, right? You effectively just kind of suicided. Yep. These guys, you charge in, you break that thing, and even when the trap collapses on you, these dudes just laugh it off, right? Yeah. So I really like Cold One Knights. I think they're pretty solid, which is great because I think the Dark Elf Cold One Knights are really cool models, and I thought they were. I was always sad that they were undervalued in the previous edition. My bad is Sisters of the Thorn, and this is highly a reflection of what they used to be. They're not fast enough compared to other fast-moving things in the game. They don't do enough. Their ranged thing at Old Javelin is super short range. None of their damage is very good. Their hits and wounds are all average. And their spell is just completely uninteresting. Like, they get the Shield of Thorns or whatever, and it's just, meh. Like, it's okay. It's not terrible. It's just not, it's not a thing I'm looking at going, yeah, I definitely want to make sure I get that off. And I know that's funny to say that basically what is a free wizard could still be bad.
Sure.
But they're so fragile. They're like a 6-up armor, they're just going to get peeled. And they have no real danger at great range. And their spell is also easy to dodge even if they get it off.
Yeah.
And they can't get out of there fast enough. They don't have the move like that super fast cav running around 14 inches, 16 inches, free running and then also shooting or whatever, all these extra things that the other super fast units, they can't play in their old invasion space where they used to win.
Certainly.
And then my ugly, I'm going to cheat just a tad for ugly. And I'm going to pick Treekin, which are still technically in the Aelfs. Okay. As ugly because A, they are garbage rules-wise, and B, they are ugly model-wise. Like, those are just, they are ugly in every way that word could be applied. And it's clear to me that they made them garbage because they knew they weren't going to remake the model. They just wanted to kind of shuffle that off into that good night and forget that existed. So they were like, man, give them total garbage stats and call it a day. Like, there's nothing good about them. Nothing. So there you go. Which makes me sad because I do have like 6 Treekin, but
yeah.
Oh well, life goes on. All right. So I thought we'd close out on an interesting one. And that is on wizards in the Aelfs. The Aelfs are known for their magic, right? That's
Sure.
a thing. And so I thought it would be fun to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Aelf casters. The Aelf casters are supposed to boast some of the most powerful sorcerers in the world. So what do you got? Hit me.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit here.
Okay.
So my good, I'll start there, is by and far, to me, the good is Marathi. Because technically she's a character, but she really is a wizard. So
no, absolutely.
And here's why. Here's a wizard with 6 wounds, so most of the wizards are 5. Obviously, so she's sporting an extra wound because she's on a Pegasus. She's at a 4-up save, 16-inch move. I love it. So she can be where she needs to be, and with fly. She can be where she needs to be, and she's reasonably protected from range attacks with that 4-up save. She's adding 1 to her castrels, and she is subtracting 1 from any hit rolls that attack her during the combat phase. So if anybody does catch her in melee, she's reducing their to hit by 1. She's decently threatening in melee. With 2 attacks, so instead of the one melee attack, she has 2 attacks, and this one's at 3-up, minus 1d3 damage. So, not shabby.
No, pretty good stuff.
Pegasus also has some melee attacks, but to me, she's throwing out 2 spells, and her bonus added spell is basically an upgraded damage spell. And so think of it like an arcane bolt, basically. But the difference is instead of rolling a D3, she rolls a D6, and 50% of the time, that it does a D6 wounds.
Yeah, which is better.
It does, basically 50% of the time it does an arcane bolt plus, like an arcane bolt times 2. The other half of the time, it just does the equivalent, the range of what arcane bolt does. And she can also throw Arcane Bolt.
Right.
Because she throws 2 spells. So, to me, she's banging on the cylinders that she needs to be banging on.
She can get around there, the little mortal wound assassination machine, right?
Yeah, and, I mean, the reality is that, dragons take up table space. They're big.
Sure.
And with wingspans and just moving around in terrain, and if you have a sufficiently, terrain-full battlefield, I love that I can plop Marathi down on a little 50 mil base and fly around wherever I need to and fit her into whatever corners and onto whatever buildings, or all of that with her 4-up save. So she's my good. My bad, I wanted to shy away, but I'm gonna actually jump back because I'm evaluating these things on their wizard abilities. Yes. Not on in general, on their whole package. And I'm going to jump back, and I'm actually going to name Teclis as my bad. And I talked about staying away from him, but I just can't get past the fact that he's bad. He's so bad.
Here's is how much he hates you, Teclis. You've made him talk about you again. Why are you so terrible?
Okay. Let's start with his spell. His bonus spell is basically like a move debuff. It does 1 wound. It's a move debuff. Okay. Okay. He gets 3 spells per round, and basically Okay, I'm an idiot. Never mind. I missed a sentence. He has 3 spells per round, and he needs other wizards to gain their spells. I actually had missed that in my critique of him last time. I actually said that he needed ability that he actually does have. So I'm wrong. I'm publicly admitting it. No one caught me. No one caught me. So shame on all of you. The last time I complained about this. But he does gain the spell, like the spells of all high elf wizards within 16 inches of him, like Nagash, which is what I said he should do. But needless to say, he's casting 3 spells, and if he doesn't have those wizards, he's beyond terrible because he's casting Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Tempest, which is the movement debuff damage. So in order for him to really be banging, you need to have like 3 or 4 other wizards, and most of them have not really good spells.
Sure. Whereas a lot of those other casters, when they get this sort of ability, you look at the Slann triple casting, you look at Nagash, a bajillion casting, they're naturally getting a bunch of spells from just existing on the table with their army.
And summoning. And they're getting spells.
That's what I'm saying. Their army is handing them summon spells. Regardless of the other wizards, their army is handing them summon spells, right? So they have something to fill out that triple pack with. Whereas you're not summoning Aelfs.
No, and the spells that he will have to select from, if you scroll down through the spells of high elves, because this is only high elves, it's not all elves, are fairly lackluster. The best, ironically, like you need to have a bunch of other archmages on dragons and sun dragons to get the better of the spells. And so it's just I don't know. I'm just not real impressed, is what I would say. So he's my bad, and here's my ugly. And it's funny because you were really critical of this unit in that last review that we did.
Okay.
And it's it's our buddies, the Doomfire Warlocks.
I am pretty critical of them. I don't think they're good.
But here's the deal: as wizards, they bring something that no other wizard does, and that is the ability to break sudden death.
Okay.
And here's why. So with sudden death, assuming you're playing like rules as written, you can bring your elves or whatever, and assuming that you're going to trigger a sudden death and you don't meet a lot of the other easy victory conditions. One of the easiest victory conditions to choose for an army is the assassination mission. Okay. And so let's say the Dark Elf player triggers the sudden death, and more often than not, if somebody is building an army to win in sudden death, one of the best ways to do that is the assassination mission, because you just generally can't protect what your target is. And the key is that you don't get to choose who your assassination mission is. The enemy player does, which in this case is the Dark Elf. And so if I drop a big 20-unit strong block of Doomfire Warlocks, you have to choose through, like, I can choose them as my wizard because they are wizard keyworded. Because that
so we're assuming a situation where you're putting 20 Doomfire Warlocks on the table and you're still in sudden death.
No, yes, you're going. If you put, you're missing it.
You're saying you're on the receiving end of this.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. Is if you're playing with this and you have this block of 20 Doomfire Warlocks, assuming that they it's not going to be easy to meet any of the other conditions.
Right.
You can drop as much as you want because the default mission that they're going to go to is sudden death, and you just drop your Doomfire Warlock block.
Gotcha.
And what that means is that they will, if they choose assassination, you choose your Doomfire Warlock block, and you're gonna they have to chew through 40 wounds of Cath.
Yeah, I think what that means is that they never choose assassination.
Right, exactly. But that's exactly it. And that puts them in a real hard place because assassination is really the go-to against overwhelming forces.
Gotcha.
So that's what I would say. So they're ugly because they, on one hand, they play with the meta and they break that aspect of it. It's completely a rules thing that they're playing in that kind of ugly space. And their magic is still fairly good. I mean, they're casting 1 spell. 10 or more models are at +1 to cast this. Doombolt's not bad. Again, if you have 10 or more models and you're throwing Doombolts, they're 6 wounds each on a cast of 5. That ain't too shabby. But from what they were, they are a shadow of what they previously were regarding the cav that they were with their ward save and with their melee attacks and all those other things.
Oh,
so
yeah,
they're ugly.
sure. Yeah. All right, fair enough. All right, so for me, my good, bad, and ugly. In the Aelf wizards, the masters of magic. All right, so here's my picks. My good and bad are very closely related. And it's funny because at first glance and first blush, I think they actually seem similar, but I agree with you. I think that I'm looking at them from the purview of like sort of their wizarding ability and how that fits into the total model.
Yep.
So my good is the sorceress on Black Dragon.
Okay.
Okay. Because she has a big black dragon that's a very scary model and can just wreck. It can just absolutely bring the house down, right? And that dragon breathes a bunch of mortal wounds. Its dragon breath is the pick a unit roll for every modeling unit. On a 6, it suffers a mortal wound. So she's a big unit wrecker. In addition to this, the dragon itself who can come in and wreck. And her spell also lets her do a bunch of mortal wounds. Okay? Like her spell is Blade Wind or whatever, where you roll like 6 dice and everything you roll under their lowest hit you does a mortal wound. Again, she's really good at soloing large blocks of troops, right? Just like she will single-handedly clean up big blocks of troops.
But you don't. Go ahead.
What's that?
I was saying you don't find like her dual purpose frustrating, like
not at all.
Being pulled in multiple. Because this forces her to be on the front line with a 5-up save.
That's fine. I mean,
okay,
she's got like 14 wounds because of that dragon. She's tough enough to take a beating, and she still can fly. Like, if she's not too beat up, she can fly. So she can hop back over the other troops because of that and get away and go preserve herself. To me, she is a great answer in the Aelf force to big blocks of troops, right? The thing that Aelfs don't want to see is just like the wave of garbage coming at them that's going to get in their way because they want to be connecting with the proper units, right?
Yeah.
And she's really good at just going, nope, let's just pick that unit up because she can just battle. If that unit's not immune to battle shock, she can wipe a 30, 40 unit out in one turn if she lands enough stuff, right? She breathes on it. She melee, or she casts on it. She breathes on it. She melees it. It battle shocks to 0. Like that's not an impossible scenario at all, right?
True.
And then whatever the next round she just flies away. The only thing I find that probably isn't as useful is her sacrifice ability, but it's still good to have, just because she might often be operating outside of where there are easy Aelfs that she can go kill, right, to add a bonus to her casting. That being said, for killing that model, she gets like 2 to her cast roll or something, which, adding 2 to a cast roll is never a bad thing.
Sure.
So on the flip side, the regular sorceress, the one not on a black dragon, is my bad. Because she's running around on foot, she's very easy to off, and her spell isn't that good. It's just not that good. It does like a single mortal wound and gives somebody -1 to hit.
Sure.
Okay. Like, I'm not saying -1 to hit's bad. You land that on a monster, I guess that's pretty good.
I was going to say, -1 to hit is pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, it's okay against the right thing. But let me ask you a question. Okay? Sure. You got a big monster. What would you rather do? D6 or 6 mortal wounds to the thing or something like that? Or 1 mortal wound and -1 to hit?
Clearly 1 mortal wound, -1 to hit.
I would take the big wounds, and I'll tell you why.
I'm joking.
Oh, okay, got it. All right. Yeah, the big wounds every time, because that's automatically probably causing the -1 to hit to at least one of their attacks, right? Just by moving it up the wound scale.
Yeah, or reducing the number of attacks that they're even leveling at you.
Exactly. So, like, and that's who you want. That's the most useful target for that -1 to hit spell, right?
Yeah. And it's also within 16 inches, so it's not even the full 18-inch cast.
Right. So I just find her completely underwhelming. My ugly is I'm going to go ahead and just call back here. But my ugly is Malekith, who is a caster, right? So he counts.
Yep.
And again, for the same reason as Imric. He's good. I like all around. He's a hell of a package. Why is he still burdened with that model? Why is he still on that garbage model. It hurts my soul that this guy, who should be truly one of the most fearsome figures in the Warhammer world, is saddled with that 18-year-old model.
The best part about it, by the way, is that like we even got an upgrade of Malekith in end times of like stat wise, and like no, they couldn't bring themselves to do it.
Well, and that's just it. I'm really, really hoping that the reason we didn't get anything then, was because
a big release later.
Yeah, because he had a Malarian release coming later, and they wanted to release him with his new name and stuff like that. And that actually segues into a question from Stu Gibson that I wanted to have us answer here.
Okay.
And so Stu had asked the following question. Would you like to see Tyrion, Teclis, Malekith, Malarian, etc. return in AOS as playable characters with new models and rules? Like, not the War Scrolls, like assume as part of a new release, right?
Like Nagash level?
Or would you prefer they solely be the new Aelf and gods to make way for new special characters? Like, in other words, whenever we get their realization beyond the current War Scrolls, whenever we get their sort of new realization, how would we want them to be realized?
Personally.
And you could say, like Nagash, that's a fair answer.
Personally, I don't want them on the table, is what I would say. Because ultimately, looking at these War Scrolls, they're going to disappoint me.
They're not going to be as badass as they are in the story, basically, or as they are.
Or even as interesting. Like, it's the whole, like, 4E thing. Like, does that make sense?
Sure.
Or Dungeons & Dragons. And so what I'm invoking here is that in 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, they're, like, you didn't have whenever you were fighting had 2 or 3 abilities. Basically, their War Scrolls their stats looked miraculously like the Age of Sigmar War Scrolls. You had a handful of abilities, and they could never encapsulate all of what those things are. And I feel like that's probably what we'll get if we got a Nagash level Tyrion, for example, or whatnot.
Well, I mean, that being said, Nagash is pretty.
It's true.
Pretty BA.
It's true. No, I agree with that. I do. I think I'm going to be disappointed with whatever they would do. The exception to this is that I think of all of those, of any of them that I would want to see, Malarian is the one that I would want to see on the table.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. That was going to be my exact answer. Yeah. I honestly don't need a new Teclis or Tyrion or anything like that. I really don't. But I want to see Malarian on the table. I want to see what is he now, because he's something so different. I would love to see. He doesn't have to be Nagash level crazy, but I would love to see a really significant, cool, powerful special character.
Oh, right? I would love to see a Nagash level Malarian.
Yeah, let's wheel him back just a little. He doesn't need to be that. Nagash, because Nagash causes problems at the table, right? People don't want to fight him. So, like, I wanted this dude to be big and impressive in BA, but he doesn't need to be like, I need a signed waiver of consent from my opponent before I put him on the table, which is what Nagash is, right? Like, you've got to call in attorneys and have like some negotiations before you put Nagash down. I'm just not asking for that.
Certainly.
All right.
So, can I jump back to our unit things?
Yeah, sure.
Because this really makes me like this. Like, we didn't do chariots this time. We didn't do chariots.
We did not. No. I purposely picked this unit for the Aelfs because Wood Elves didn't have chariots, so I wanted to pick things that all the armies had.
I hear that.
If you've got an honorable mention, go ahead.
I do. Damn it, I love Skycutters now.
Okay.
Right? Because I had at the end of the last edition. I was gathering all of my stuff that I wanted, before it went out, just in case models disappeared and stuff like that. And even though I was like, I'm never going to field this many, I'm going to buy 3 Skycutters, so I got a good deal on them. And I'm going to put them on my shelf, and maybe I'll get to put them together someday. And man, with this War Scroll drop for Skycutters, I was like, hot damn. Like, it is the era of the Skycutters now. These chariots are BA. You can have units of them. Let's start there. Okay. 8 wounds each. and they're not shabby with bows either. So you're at like 3 bow attacks, and you can have and then you can have the or instead you can have the Eagle Eye Bolt Thrower, which obviously I would likely run instead, which is a mini ballista, 4 up, 3 up, -1 rend, D3 damage. And they have a bunch of neat abilities. Like I love what they're doing now.
They really do have a lot of weird and a copious number of special abilities.
Yeah, they're 16-inch move, and they can shoot on the run as well. Yep. So like these are chariots that are running and shooting.
Yep.
Like I just I don't know. Like and it rolls 2 dice instead of 1 when it runs, and like man. These guys are just BA. And then their hero on a Sky Cutter makes it so that you can like run and charge as well with any units that are in your army that fly. And it's just it's good across the board, the Sky Cutter stuff. So I just, man, I love me some Sky Cutters now. That's what I'll say.
Well, since you gave a good, I'll give a quick honorable mention for bad in another category we didn't touch, and that is Great Eagles. Like the Great Eagles out of Wood Elves are so terrible. Yeah. They are so terrible. There is zot of value in those things now. And a part of me just feels like that's GW's subtle revenge at us using their Eagles as chaff for like a whole edition. They were like, yeah, fine. That's how it's going to be? We'll make them chaff.
Exactly. This is what you get.
Is this what you wanted? Yes.
Yes, and it makes me sad because the actual like the mounted cav for them, the whatever they're called,
the Warhawk Riders.
The Warhawk Riders are actually like better down the line. Like same wounds, same save, but you get a rider and a bunch of other stuff, and they're like, suck it. Like it makes me sad.
All right. Well, very good. Well, since we were talking about Aelfs and Tyrion, I have a little surprise for you, Tom.
Uh-oh.
And it's not specifically for you, but I didn't tell you that I had this. But Tyler Emerson sent me along some photos of his Tyrion that he had commissioned. Okay. And so this was done by so it was done by Javier Gonzalez. I don't know how to say the middle word, but you'll see it here in a moment. And he sent me like the doc that he used to put this together. This was a huge collaborative effort between the two of them. And my God. So for all of our viewers, you have done well to watch to this point. Here we go. This is one of the more amazing figs I've ever seen done. So this is all customized, like Volton's horse and different, head and shield and everything. It's all custom built on this base and everything. Still perfectly usable in the game though. And just look how beautiful this is. Now, this paint job is just absolutely stunning. So I assume you can see my screen there, no issue,
I
right?
can. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and lock it on yourself.
Yeah, I should be locked on me, I believe. Let me make sure about that. Yes, I am locked on me. Okay. There we go.
I love the glowing eyes.
Yes. Like I every bit of this is just an absolute masterpiece. Every gem, every scale, every bit of non-metallic metal, gold and silver, the rune work, all this freehand. Let me get around to the back here.
I don't have a Tyrion, and in general, I've never fielded a Tyrion. But but I would make an exception here.
Oh, every time this guy would be on the table. Yep. I mean, seriously, just like. Look at this freehand work on the cloak. It's just stunning work. So yeah, this is from RC's studio, I guess. I don't know if I'm probably saying that wrong. But the link to this is in the comments on the YouTubers for this show. So you can go check that out. And this studio, obviously this is absolutely top-notch work. I mean, my complete and total admiration to the painter.
I am jealous, is what I would say.
Yeah, this is one of the most stunning pieces I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And what I really truly love about it is like I said, he shared with me like the document that he gave to him and kind of showed me the collaborative process that they went through to build this and choosing each piece, like what the head is, where it looked, what the runes that would be used, where the shield would come from, the horse and all this.
Yeah.
And there's so much thought and love put into this model by both the commissioner and by the painter. And together they made something just, absolutely fantastic that is a centerpiece of an army for your life, right? Like, this is something you should treasure for literally the rest of your life because it's beautiful. This is not something that's just like, hey, I got a model painted, cool, it's done. No, this is something that forever you own and you should be proud to own forever.
That dude would totally be on my table at every opportunity.
Yep. And I like you see, still on the base, right? Still on the correct size sort of cav base there or whatever. So, which I think I'm going to use this oval for my cav bases too. I don't like the pills. I see people going to this oval. I'm all about it. So I compliment the choice all the way down to even that. Yep. So there you go. I wanted to make sure we shared that since we were talking Aelfs this week. And this is probably the most impressive Aelf I have ever seen painted. So there you go. That's from Tyler. So thank you very much, Tyler, for sharing that with me. That's I love looking at incredible painters' work because it makes you want to strive to be better and to improve and to push yourself. And so I always try to seek out that kind of work because, and it's good to look at it. I mean, really look, right? Look at that picture, stare at it. Don't just take it all in, but then look at the scales. Try to figure out what are the 4 paints and blends and stuff he was using on each individual piece of the scale mail, and then attempt some techniques yourself to duplicate that, right? Really get to the critical examination of the thing. I think that can be really fun, at least for me. Maybe not for everybody else, but I thought it was cool.
What I want to know is, how much did you pay for that model?
Did not include that, and I wouldn't share it even if he did. But there you go. I'm sure the right amount is the answer for that one. But at any rate, Tom, any closing thoughts before we end our Aelf dedicated show?
Nope. Go roll them bones.
That's right. More time this weekend. Look forward to that. Like I said, links will be down below. Other than that, we thank you all, as always, for watching. Give us a subscribe or a like if you like it. But as always, we will see you next Wednesday.